It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you as always. Today, I have a special episode for you. We're sitting here in the Furman Garner Performance Studio at KUAF 91.3 FM on your dial. It is the only NPR station here in Northwest Arkansas, so shout out to KUAF. But I'm here, and this is actually a special episode today because I'm getting a chance to kind of have a follow-up conversation. Back on episode 283, we had Matt Lewis from Lewis Automotive Group talk about his experience in this area here in Northwest Arkansas as a car dealer, and Matt shared incredible insights into building a successful business, creating a thriving company culture, and the importance of community. We had that far-reaching conversation. But as Matt told us, Lewis Automotive Group is a true family affair. And today we're joined by two of Matt's brothers, Shelby and Taylor Lewis, to explore the unique dynamics of running a multi-generational family business. What are the challenges and rewards? How do they navigate decision-making and conflict resolution? What advice do they have for other aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly those considering a family business? We're going to get into all of this and more right here on this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. So without further ado, I want to welcome Shelby and Taylor Lewis. How are you guys doing?
We're great, man. Randy, thanks for having us on. We're super excited. So we are Lewis Automotive, and we're the culture. So
we are. Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that. So listen, first of all, I'd love for you guys both, and Shelby, I'll start with you. Just tell us a little bit about your background and your role at Lewis Automotive Group.
Absolutely. It all ties together, so don't worry about that. So I'm the middle brother, and I have been in the automotive industry for getting paid to be in the industry, I guess I should say. I grew up in it, but getting close to 18 years.
Wow.
And so as Matt...
You look like a baby, so you're like...
yeah.
Both of you guys look super young,
the car industry has been nice to us or not, whatever, I don't know. But so I'm currently the general manager for the Ford store, so Lewis Ford right here in Fayetteville, at our brand new shiny store. And if kind of, as I know you guys broke down and went through, grown up through the industry. So I was in parts, did the parts warehousing and some stock and shelves and all those things. And then was in service, and then was in sales, and then in inventory, then through sales, and then here I am. So just love being a part of, it's fun to win, right? Everyone loves to win, but it's even more fun to win with a huge group of people.
Right.
And winning yourself is great, but if you can teach and show someone else how to win, it's so much more fun. So that's what we get to do.
That's awesome. I love that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about just the actual process internally of how you guys vet family members for the business, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
So Taylor, go ahead and give us your little superhero origin story.
Absolutely. So, being the youngest brother, of course, wanted to follow. As Shelby said, we were always there, always in the middle of it and wanting to be a part of whatever our dad had going on. So being there on the weekends and going through that. But basically, once getting old enough there, following along with brothers and going through the whole process, I think the funniest part of any of our growing up, so going through parts or service or inventory or anything else there, I always love to laugh because people are like, did you really do everything whenever you were going through? Yes. So several years back, we'd brought on the Line-X franchise to be able to spray truck bed coatings on vehicles that we sell. So that was brought on, and Matt, being oldest, said, hey, Taylor, I need you to help with this. So I learned how to spray that. I was in the middle of that several days as I was still over there. We had some people no-show, so I had to be the one that would know how to be able to break down guns or be able to spray that or anything else. So yes, we truly went through every different part and piece of the business. And that was not only one, to earn our stripes, but two, for us to be knowledgeable about every single different area of the business so we could continue to make it successful.
Yeah, no, and I think, and again, like I said, we are going to spend a little time on that because I think it's an important lesson that every entrepreneur must learn which is you need to know a little bit about your whole business, not just one thing. Like, I mean, I know podcasting in and out, and I know interviewing, but I also know how to edit audio. I can edit video. I can, write a transcript or fine tune it. I can do a little bit of everything. And I think a lot of times, especially newer businesses nowadays, typically business owners make the mistake of only majoring in the minors and not understanding all the aspects of an organization and what's required for success.
I think that's important, because a lot of times you say young entrepreneurs or business just getting started, they're looking to harvest the fruit or, they're looking for that. And it's important, right, for sustainability. But you got to plant the seeds and you got to prepare the ground and it's a long-term thing. And so if you know what is compiled in all of that, it helps you relate to that employee on a tough day or when they got overrun by parts or all these customers came in. You can relate and say, hey, let me show you how I've been able to be successful. Yeah. And you're not just saying, hey, I read that it should be done like this, go get it, And they're like, you don't even know, right? Like, Taylor and I pride ourselves on being two of the best janitors that Lewis Automotive has ever employed. Like, we can unclog the best of the best toilets, you know what I mean?
There's value in that.
There's huge value. Like, I've got my own leaf blower at work.
Oh, yes.
I'm the best parking lot clearer there is.
That's cool.
And we're good on snow plows. And it's what we do. It's what our dad taught us, was how to work hard and lead by example, do what I do, not only what I say.
Right.
That's how we were raised.
I love that. Well, and so that brings us perfectly into our first question that I had for you. I know Matt in our previous episode, and we'll link to that episode in the show notes again. That was episode 283. The title of that was Decoding the Formula for Generational Business Success. I highly recommend folks go and listen to that particular episode as a follow-up to this one. But Matt mentioned that only 5% of family businesses make it to the fourth generation. Okay, now I know that's a long time. I mean, a generation's about 20 to 25 years, so that's almost 100 years. What do you think are the key factors that have contributed to the success and longevity of Lewis Automotive Group?
I think it was really clear boundaries of business and family. And that was something that my grandfather, I was pretty young, but in the early 2000s, brought in a consultant to kind of help us, not just us, but like my dad, his brother, they're part of the family. So everyone understood, like they didn't just show up to the dealership and get their new car to drive.
Yeah.
Or, hey, where do I collect my check?
Right.
Like, if you want to be in the business, here's how. But of understanding, here's what it takes. And you're going to be there bell to bell. Like, we're not collecting the reports or the checks from the beach. And that was, men, we're not great at communication. We work on it every day. The more we could communicate that as a family in our part of it, right? Our father did his part and then grandfather. But it was communication of, hey, let's have clear expectations of how this works. And so then it was kind of understood of like, we're going to figure all these things out and then we can withstand all the things.
Yeah. What did you find that the whole family was kind of in agreement with this approach for the most part?
For the most part, I would think it was more so set that he was the one that obviously was in charge of it at the time. So he had the reins and could do that and was seeing down the road far enough of, hey, as this grows, as Fayetteville continues to grow, there will always be opportunity. And this will just squash it of, hey, this is your route if you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other unique challenges that a fourth generation business, family business has encountered that you would want to mention?
There's the unique benefit, which is amazing, of seeing business like our repeats and our referrals. We have that very unique benefit, I would say, of other families have done business with our family. And because our family has done such a good job of taking care of people, like I was doing a presentation the other day for a high school class, and I pulled up a quote, and it was from the 60s. And it was from my grandfather, and it said, no matter what happens, take care of your employees or take care of your customers, and everything else will follow.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what the technology or the times or the views, that has not changed. And we get the benefit of that right now to be able to show we still have that and we still do that. But they open the door for that person. And so they say, hey, my grandfather bought his first car here down from this place on college. It was one of the first 69, one of these, or it was down on the square. They bought one of the last there. So I would say that's one of the things that we get to be part of, fourth generation, of seeing the fun things with that.
And that's got to be inspiring though, right? When you think about that. So like, just walk me back to like when you guys were both young. As I said, you guys both still look like youngsters, but when you guys were both really young, like I was looking at like Matt's kids at the grand opening. I'm like, wow, that's the next generation that's going to run things. Yeah. But were you thinking about business when you were 9, 10, 11? Was it just, because people just assume that, right? They're like, the Lewis family, they're just breeding business people, but that's not the case.
No, more so of like, hey, this is a great career to be able to go into. There's a lot of work. We could see that from our father, that he was always working, obviously made family important, but it was always, hey, this is how we do to work. And we saw that success, and we saw the success not only of the business, but what he was able to pour into employees, the family, how they would grow. And it had to have been something and you don't think of that as much whenever you're at that age.
Yeah.
And we always laugh, of going through kindergarten or anything else. What do you want to be whenever you grow up? And it was always car salesman or businessman or anything else. And that was probably more so of Dad was in the crowd, so probably making him proud. But
right.
Of going through, that's what we want to do on the weekends. Just going through and hanging out and figuring out the ins and outs. And that kind of just helped us fall into that. And you have to have a love and passion for any family business.
Sure.
But especially this business, because if as much as we love it and enjoy the fruits and everything that come from it, you're going to have those tough character building days, as we talk about, that are going to make you second guess it.
Absolutely. Biting cold weather when you got to go out and clean out the cars and all that stuff. So
it's so much. And it's one of those things, like as kids, like on Saturdays, we went to work with Dad. Right. So that was the thing. And so then Dad, we were raised on a farm, so we cleaned horse stalls and we had to do all the chores, and we're super thankful now for it. As kids, we hated it. Right. But it taught us hard work. And so then when we got to take a break from that on Saturdays, Dad, we're going to work with you. We used to have a boat store and they sold ATVs there. I remember saying, Dad, this Saturday, can we go to the boat store? Like, so we could climb in the boats. We were kids, right? And so it was the power of influence of being around it, because it was what was in our trajectory. But, then as it came high school time of like, okay, what do you want to do? It's like, I think I kind of want to be in the business. And then, we went to specific school for that to try to understand it more on a more granular level. And then it became serious. But then really, like you went to school, got a degree in this, and then had to put the rubber to the road. Or just did specialized training in anything and podcasting, but then you had to start recording your podcast. Like, oh, now it's real, right? Like I'm on the other side. So then it became like, okay, I really got to do this. And so then that kind of built us who we are. And it's character building, and it's great to have brothers to be able to do it, to say like, hey, real quick, what would you do in this situation? Like, I think I got it handled, but what would you do? And so I think that's what keeps us going.
Yeah. And I got to imagine that you guys have a pretty strong family culture, right? But that even the strongest of family cultures can be tested.
Yes.
How have you guys dealt with and or managed and handled disagreements when they come up? Because it's perfect, right? I grew up watching a show called Dallas and Knots Landing. And I just remember the whole theme of that show was about family disagreements and how they overcame them. And of course, I'm so dating myself with the reference to Dallas. I think that's kind of funny. But any show that you can think of, Yellowstone is a contemporary one, right? And you just think of the family dynamic and the challenges that people have to overcome. Yeah. How have you guys managed to handle those disagreements when they do come up?
So I think it's good, and doesn't go without saying, that we've always been raised around manners, and we've always have always respected the people around us. And so it's never overly, we're not like you say Yellowstone or you say some of the others. We don't.
That's an extreme example.
Yeah,
but
we're not overly, our farm wasn't like that. We didn't haul anybody off to wherever it was. The train station. There was times we didn't get along, but we were pretty tame. So the biggest thing is having that line, and business is business and family is family.
Right.
So like yesterday, we celebrated my middle son's 9th birthday.
Oh, okay.
So we had a birthday party. And so we all came together because our family has always been a strong thing, right? We're all going to show up and support each other no matter what it is, no matter how big or simple it is. And so we're not talking about like, hey, tomorrow, Taylor, we got a sales meeting. We got to go over this and we got to handle this. Or like, hey, there were some things that, and it was funny. We were talking about that earlier and I was telling a manager and Taylor was standing there after a meeting right before this. And I said this, and this. And he's like, yeah, you're going to thrash him. And I said, well, what we do outside of here and what we do in here, I said, when I tell Taylor like, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this, he's not my brother. Right now, I take that into, that I'm not just like, this is not just Judy, that I'm just Judy chopping.
Right.
It's business is business and work is work. And our work is fun enough that it seems like you're hanging out at, at the family
it's
reunion.
It's like the best of both worlds.
It kind of is. And that's because of our demeanor. You can show up, you can go to any of our sales meetings and you could bring your children, you could bring your grandparents. We're not going to be cussing anybody.
Sure.
We're not going to be screaming at somebody. It is pretty laid low now intensity of here's what the expectation is there, but it's all family friendly. And so that's trickled over from our family. So there was definite respect in here's the decision, here's what it is. And if there was something we didn't get along, like let's sit down and talk about it. It was not always sit down. We were always moving. We just always were moving. But, those were the things that I guess have made it work,
Absolutely. And I think growing up, as he's talked about, of having manners, but it was always we were never allowed to be able to not be able to resolve any conflicts we didn't have. So of our parents being able to, hey, no, you're going to sort this out. So as we've grown up, because a lot of people will run into us and they say, fourth generation, oh, you work with your brothers. Oh, that's probably not fun. No, it's the most fun we could possibly have because we all respect each other. We all have somehow this all lined out perfectly. We all have different personalities that just mesh together perfectly.
Yeah.
And we know, and we get irritated at each other, but it's just like, hey, no, there's no one I would rather be in business with. So that's really helped it be successful.
I love that. So, well, and then since we're talking about family and we alluded to it earlier, this was something that Matt has talked about, and he talked about it a lot. I know Mark Zweig, who is a mutual friend of Matt and I's, has invited Matt several times to come speak at his new venture class for entrepreneurship. And Matt always tells the same story about, I wasn't just handed this. I didn't just become the guy.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot to do that. And so I'd love for you maybe to talk about the importance of each family member earning their position in the company and working through various departments, specifically as it pertains to you. What kind of understanding did that give you about the business and running a business in general?
Yeah, I think that was important. We talked about working through the departments, but it was important for two things: to understand how things work, but also you had to understand what you liked. And I think we've seen that from our generation. Then my Uncle Tommy, he liked fix ops. So service, he liked the body shop and like parts. And then we're mainly from the variable industry. So new and used sales and finance and it's very variable, right? It's not as given as like we already have the schedule loaded for tomorrow in collision and service. And so I think moving through all of those things, then we got to realize what we were good at. And then we could really, really, really use our skills and go into that. But like Matt talked about, I promise you, we don't have a trust fund and ain't nobody handing us nothing, right? What we've had, and our dad is great about giving accolades and gratitude of like, man, they built it, right? Yeah. Great-grandfather Buck Lewis started it, and then Tom and Herb, and then Andy and Tommy and my dad, Tim, built this thing, and each generation got to take what was there and make it better.
Yeah.
And so us moving to this new property, they gave us creative control, and they said, you three are the next generation. Go figure this out.
Yeah.
And so we took the great things that they had already laid, and then we said, look, we can pivot on technology. We can find this. And we toured all the places and figured all the things out. And he's like, you guys are doing amazing, right? So just figuring out your way. But I mean, just people like you might wonder, and people are like, hey, are you collecting checks for this? Are you doing that? The dealership, when it's ours, we have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Dad's not giving us that dealership.
Right.
Like that, what we have is what we've got because we've got it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's just full grind ahead. If you know us, you wouldn't question that for a second. And, and that's rare because we see in our other dealerships, because we're in we're in groups of other dealerships, like-minded people that have the same problems or the same hurdles. And they have huge families that are on the payroll that drive. My wife doesn't even drive a car from the dealership. Taylor's wife doesn't drive. I mean, they're from the dealership, but we paid for them.
Right.
And like, Shelby, that's stupid. Like, that's just how we were raised. Like,
do you find when you go to some of those events and you connect with other dealership owners and they hear your story, they're like, man, why do you guys do that?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of like a confidence booster. Like, we're doing it the hard way, and we're doing better at it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things because they do, like the other one, somebody was in trouble the other day from Department of Finance because they had so many dealer tags out and so many grandmas and this and the local coach and they had so many cars and dealer tags out and they're having to pay sales tax on all of them. And they were like, Shelby, you've got 260 employees. You must have just dealer tags. Everyone was like, no, we've got less than 10 of them. Like,
really?
Oh, yeah. And so there's so much fruit in it of knowing like, we're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And we're earning every scoop of dirt we have is because we've scooped the dirt.
I love that.
I mean, that's huge. And you hit the nail on the head of you kind of love it because we've talked about our story and our process of going through everything in the different departments. Anybody we talk to that are in the groups and that has come along the same path of, coming into a family business or automotive, some of them have stepped past all of A, B, C, D and went straight to the top.
Yeah.
And they'll always call us for questions or anything else.
They don't have a clue.
They have no clue. It's so fun. Did we want to work for 20 years or however long before you go? No, you don't want to go through and learn everything. But that's how you sustain success in a generational family business.
Yeah.
Because the fun thing, like if a very key person, if something happens, right, and they need to have change of pace, change of life, and they go somewhere else, like your parts manager, your service manager. We talked about this on our podcast today, but you just plug the hole and you get to plug that hole.
Right.
I'm like, Taylor, you go sit at the finance office and you start writing contracts. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go desk deals or hey, I'm going to go sit in service or I'm going to sit in parts.
And you know how to do it.
Because we know how to do
exactly.
it. And so then, but it's also a breath of fresh air while there's a lot of stress going on of like, got to find this person. But you also have to handle what's in front of you and that's daily operations. And so then you get to know your team around you, and that's something we always do. We'll walk through, check on people, get to know people. And so then you're like, whoa, I see some areas we can grow. That's a growing moment. That's a building moment. And I'm like, hey, what if you tried it like this? And like, I didn't ever think about that. It's like, it's okay. Like, hey, let's try it like this. And so then we know how to do it because we've been in there doing it.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a valuable business lesson across the board for anybody listening to this that either is in their own business or wants to start a business. Take the time to understand every aspect and area of your business.
Yeah.
Because the more you do that, the better off you'll be in the long term. Because you'll know what is acceptable and what isn't.
Yes.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah. And you don't have to be perfect in all the aspects. Like you don't have to know all and we learned that with like our HR director or our controller of our business, but you at least know well enough to know left from right and up from down,
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing that has kind of stood out in my interactions with Lewis Automotive Group is how excited the employees are for working there. And I would love for you to just kind of talk about what you have done. I mean, Matt talked about the value of creating a positive and supportive work environment for employees. And that certainly helps with recruitment and retention, right? It also helps for customer satisfaction. All of those play into that. What specific initiatives or programs have you guys implemented at Lewis Automotive Group to achieve this? Are there specific things that you can point to say, because we did this, we've had success with the customers. Because we did this, we've had success with our employees. Matt told me about the workout facility that you guys have there. I was like, Matt, you got to invite me over so I can try that out, man. But I love that. I mean, it's huge.
Next level.
Yeah.
Like we're a couple months into our pre-owned building, which has our 2,000 square foot gym that has a cold plunge, that has a sauna, that has so much equipment in it. And the culture that is like people that have never been in the gym, or people that are avid gym goers, to be able to come to work, pre-work time, post-work time, or during the middle of work and do something that you love or something that helps you like be your why or get back to neutral. It's amazing that it's on, and it's an amazing view. Like it's floor to ceiling glass, and it's a great facility with great fun. But we have our cake days, which is great fun. So every single month we celebrate with cake and with a food truck and of excitement. We always start that with rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
And it's a fun team building
It's the
event.
easy way to win.
And
at first I thought you said keg, but you said cake days.
yeah, hold the keg.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, okay,
no,
cool.
It's a good question. So it's cake.
Okay, very cool.
Sorry, that's
very
my
cool.
Arkansas.
It's
but it's cake day. So we celebrate, and why we call it cake day is we celebrate birthdays and anniversaries.
Oh, nice.
So every single month, without fail, no exceptions, we will celebrate because it's the wins. And like we can hire and fire a bunch of people every single day, but to be able to keep those people in a world right now where tenure really doesn't mean anything and people can just job hop to job hop without much effort.
Mm-hmm.
So to celebrate that, like we just celebrated someone's 40th anniversary, 40 years with Lewis Automotive. She said she started working there when she was 5. She was trying not to date herself.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's fun to celebrate that. And everyone, majority of people, I won't say everyone, but the majority of people don't get that recognition, but want that recognition. Like, so we appreciate you. We're going to celebrate you. We get to celebrate all the wins and the certifications of this person did this and this person did this. Their birthday, because maybe at home they're not getting that celebrated. And we'll always do something fun, and we'll do that rock, paper, scissors and give away a gift card, and we'll have a food truck, and the morale just stays high, right?
That's huge.
It's just...
I would imagine you guys have had like several multi-generational employees at Lewis Automotive Group, right? So you guys aren't the only ones that can lay claim to being part of a generational group of people working there. Do you know the number, or do you ever keep track of it?
I don't know, and I'm sure somebody overly knows, but we've had a couple. I know we've had quite a few second generation.
Okay.
And I know we've had a few 3 generations, but it's definitely there, right?
Yeah,
because it is something that their parents or their parents' were able to create a living and sustainability that they entrusted in that, and they were around it. Then we got to continue that tradition. So that was fun in that of us growing and them growing together.
Right.
To be able to take what we knew and then improve on it and have fun.
You can always say you remember when, right?
Yes,
So like, it's like when I tell people about like, and I always try to share a little and some anecdotes about Lewis Automotive Group. And I'm like, well, yeah, they started on the square in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
And then in 1969, which that was the year I was born.
Okay.
That's when you guys moved out on Business 71, which back in the day, that was kind of like going out in the country.
Yeah, in the farm is what they said.
Is what they said. It was a dirt road. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, when I moved here in 2014, of course, it was a bypass. There was this, there were that. Sure. And then before you know it, lo and behold, you're like, well, we got to expand to something more, right? And so that makes you think, wow, okay, the iterations of Lewis Automotive Group and where you guys came from and where you are and where you're going, it's got to be exciting.
Yeah. So there's the employee culture we talk about, but you ask, like, how does it trickle over to customer culture?
Yeah.
And so one of the fun things that we added at our new stores is automatic car wash. And that's not...
I saw that.
That's not the latest and greatest because there's plenty of things out there. But it's kind of one of those things, once again, like everyone has equal opportunity, but what you do with it is really how you get the good juice from the lemon. And so we built these car washes so that it's the last piece before a customer gets a car back.
Yeah.
And so early on when I saw that, I knew it would be a little bit of a hurdle because we didn't have it before.
Yeah.
And what I told the managers when we moved is this is a great opportunity for your team to create new habits. And habits are tough, right?
Sure.
Whether we're saying eat good or exercise or you need to change where you park at or any of those things. When we moved in March of this year, if there's an issue or a bad habit, this is a great excuse to say, here's why we're changing. So that car wash was that thing, but I knew changing that habit that people would go path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And so I saw an opportunity. I made a big sign out front that said, ask about your complimentary car wash. Well, some people saw it, but didn't overly want to ask about it. So then I created these stickers. So I put them on the made labels and they say VIP. It says Lewis Automotive Group because you can't miss an opportunity to brand, right?
Yep.
And it says complimentary car wash. And so when you come in to get your vehicle serviced, I told the service advisors, that's the first thing I want you to offer to the customer. Hey, when we're finished servicing your vehicle, getting it ready to go, would you be okay with me go ahead and washing your car, getting it clean and ready to go?
Sure.
And the answer, right, every time is yes.
Yeah, of course.
But it was also a way for me, this is a business insight, is a way for me to quality inspect of how my employees were offering the car wash. So I could go in the oil change area and check the windshields real quick. And there was no car wash stickers. And so what I would do, remember, we don't yell, scream, or cuss. So I would see an Explorer up in the air. And I'd say, hey, pull that down real quick. Let me check. And I'd say, oh, it doesn't have a sticker. And it's kind of dirty, right? Like, you'd love a free car wash, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
There's car washes everywhere, right? And people are paying monthly fees, and some people aren't even using them. So I'd go inside and say, hey, who's got the Explorer out there? And they knew what I was coming for, right? But I wouldn't just say, hey, fix it. I would show them, like, hey, let me show you how delightful this is for the customer experience.
Yeah.
And so who's that? I say, well, that's Randy. I say, is Randy here hanging out? He's like, yeah. So let's go find him. So I grabbed the service advisor, and we go in, like, hey, Randy, I apologize. I missed you when you came in this morning, but I'd like to go ahead and wash your car up for you. Would you be okay with us going ahead and putting a sticker on your car that just say you've signed up for our complimentary car wash, and every time you're in here, and even if you're not getting your car washed, Randy, just swing on by and I'll wash it for you. You okay with that? 100%. And what does that customer say? Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And so then I just showed the service advisor, like, don't miss that opportunity. You're going to want a good survey. Yeah. You're going to want to make sure the customer enjoyed their process. And so then we get to, so that sticker was a fun thing for the customer to realize and the employees to realize. And so that's kind of our culture that spills onto the customer.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked about it some of, and if you're thinking about this, hearing this, hey, I'm in business, I'm trying to grow, I don't have all the new shiny and everything. Neither did we. We just moved over there, and we were the best at polishing a 1969 model. We would pride ourselves on, you could come into our dealership, our facility, that was much older than anyone else's, and it would always be cleaner. Mm-hmm. We'd always make sure the bathrooms, every customer entranceway, everywhere was cleaner. So whenever we move to this other area that Shelby's talking about, absolutely we make the most out of it. We're squeezing our lemon as hard as we can to make sure you as a customer and then you as a business owner, you can be able to pass down so that you're getting the most out of it.
I think we probably learned that from my grandma. It's because she lived in the historic district of Fayetteville.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And she was the best, right? And I think instead of cleaning, she would just paint or have someone paint. Like the old windows, like you think old wooden frame windows.
She'd just keep painting.
There was like so many layers of paint on them. And so I think at our business, we would do that, not as much as Mamaw did, but just fresh paint, right? Yeah. Like, so if you're sitting in your business.
Nothing like a fresh coat of paint on something.
Man. So, just get a roller, hit the Lowe's or your local hardware store and put some paint on it.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So, man. And it's nothing like those little lessons that you learn from, a parent or a grandparent that stick with you, and it does last a long time.
Yeah.
So, I love that. So one of the things that Matt mentioned, and I wanted to kind of ask you about, that you guys visited over 100 businesses, both automotive and businesses that had nothing to do with the auto industry, which I thought was interesting, to gather ideas and inspiration for the design and layout of your new facility, which, by the way, I want to tell people, if you have not been to their facility off of I-49, I highly recommend that you go check it out. I know you're saying, Randy, why do I need to go visit an auto dealership? It's not a normal one, but just go check out the facility. I was blown away. I've been there a few times. I went to go look at a used car, and I was there at the grand opening and got to walk into, I just kind of want my car to break down just so that I could go visit, visit the auto bay there when you check your car. I'm like, this is the coolest place to check a car in. And I just thought, wow, they clearly did some due diligence in creating the environment that they're trying to create. I'd love for you guys just to maybe talk a little bit about what that experience was like from your perspective. Matt shared a little bit about it in the episode, but I'd love for you guys, because I have something I want to follow up with after that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the biggest deal about it, and the more and more weather or whatever you're in, but we realized that auto dealerships, it's a franchise you're buying, and they give you a template of, hey, this is what your A, B, or C is what it can look like. And you can't do anything outside of that. We can make it to move or position or portion, anything that'll work best for us. But we knew, hey, that's the footprint that it has to be. The biggest deal of going through, we knew that, I bet 90% of probably don't get it right is the flow of customers, because you is coming in as a customer, Randy, going through of, hey, where do I go whenever I pull in? I'm brand new. So where do I go? So we would instantly, Matt would pull in and say, hey, don't say anything else. Where do we go for service? Where do we go for parts? So we would pull into all these different businesses and they would say that, where do you go to do this X, Y, or Z? And then it would say, where do we park? So you'll notice on the front of our building that is really, really awesome. But even on our busiest day, there's always a parking spot. And the front of the building is always clear because our parking's off of the building. We saw that at one or two of the other dealerships that was able to keep everything flowing around, was able to keep everything moving whenever it was at its busiest. And that was our number one importance. And I'll let Shelby kind of go into service-wise, but our number one thing of this whole facility was flow. How does the customer come in and how does it all work out? That was all in sales, but service was even bigger.
Yeah. As we went to these 100 different stores, and that's not like sometimes we'll get a fish story on you, you know, and stretch a fish.
That's a real deal.
It was a real deal, 100 stores. And so we went automotive to learn all things automotive. And we've learned this. There's two ways to learn something. One, you can experience it yourself and scoop the dirt. And we've done that. But there's also people that have been doing it way longer than we have and have learned, have built brand new facilities and like, dang, I would have flipped this or I would have done that. And it was about efficiency and it was about flow and time in bay and customer experience. And so the other way was to go find someone that's already done it and get their knowledge. And so we would go to these stores and we were like SEAL Team 6, just on a junior level without guns. But we would go into these stores and we would all go separate ways. Mm-hmm. And so we all knew, like, we weren't looking for where's the coffee maker and what kind of coffee do they have? But it is important. You need to stop by. Like you said, stop by and ask for a car wash and a coffee. We have an amazing coffee machine, but we didn't look at that initially. We looked at, like, where the layout was and stuff. It was like, okay, if you're a technician, where do you have to go to get parts? How do you communicate with the advisors? And parts, where do you store your parts? And so, like, one of the things that we learned along the way, and a lot of times we didn't see it in a store, but we saw where they didn't have it, and so we got to do the reverse thing of it. But right inside of our parts department, because a lot of our parts department is upstairs because it was area available, we put a huge pallet rack because we have tons of transmissions and engines that constantly come in and out. We don't need to overly, like, put those back in the back of the warehouse because they're coming in. Chances are that car already needs it. And so we just forklift it, put it on this 4-story rack, and we can store 16 plus engines and then transmissions above and beyond that. So we learned all these little things, and it was like how the Egyptians built the pyramids, and it was just this. And after 10 years of learning something from Sam Pack's store and this store in Vegas of how they controlled the flow of the parking lot, of how customers flowed through the inventory, we had this grand master plan. And then we looked at the other stores that were not automotive. And so we were looking at employee spaces. Like, you're going to spend 33% of your life at work.
Yeah, if not more.
66% while you're awake at work, if not more. Let's have fun, right? You know, so the music and the lights and the cake days and all the things. And we'll even do employee car wash days where we say, hey, give me your keys. And so Taylor and I are going to find the employees' cars. And like, no, I'm good. Like, there's some people that drive some 85 something or others. And like, I don't take that to a car. She's like, no, we'll get it. We'll scrub it. Oh my gosh, you've never seen their eyes shine up. So we learned that in some areas. And so we have cool places. Every single one of our buildings has a second story break room flex space that also has a balcony that has an amazing view. You can see Old Main. You can see all the stuff. It's on the second story so customers can't bother them. Mm-hmm. So when it's time to break, they can break. In our pre-owned building, my favorite space, I got these humongous bean bags, like the best place in the world to take a nap. And these flex spaces, because it was important. And we learned these from other businesses, Blue Cross Blue Shield, JB Hunt. Let's help people have fun and enjoy what they do. So they're not just like, I'm doing my 8 to 5 or my 9 to 6 and then going home. And I hate this,
It's a grind.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
We're still going to ask you to grind, but we're going to want you to have fun grinding. You know what I mean? And enjoy it.
There is a difference, too.
There is a huge
difference.
And the result is 10 times different.
Well, like I always tell people, I'm on the board of Ozark Natural Foods, and the thing that I keep driving home to the general manager is if you take care of the employees, they will take care of the customer.
Yes.
100%.
1,000 times.
And that is a message that every business owner, small or medium or large, should understand. Mm-hmm. When you understand that and you take care of, and you may be an employee of one, which means that you have to do it all.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it is a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
But it starts with your people.
And that's important, I think, because the difference when you tell him that, because if you put him on the floor, he's generally going to take care of customers,
Absolutely.
Right? He's going to treat them like he wants to be treated. Same way with you or me or Taylor and I or Matt. We're going to take care of a customer. We're going to listen to their concern. We're going to move as quickly and as efficiently as we can. but we can't talk to all the people.
Yeah.
He can't talk to all the people at Ozark Natural Foods. So if he loves on his employees, and that's something I'll say every morning, go love on your team. And I'm not saying we got to powwow and all like kumbaya, but really love on them. Like check under their hood, what's going on. And what did their kids do this weekend? And little Jimmy did this and, and that.
Active listening, as I like
to call it.
Yeah.
And you're taking notes, and so then you realize what's important to them. And so then the river flows downstream. And so then your customer, they actually listen to them and they're like, this place actually listened. My car engine blew up, but it's not their fault. And they offered me a couple options and dang, they got good coffee and they washed my car even with a blown up motor. And
it's a good combination.
You know what I mean? It's pretty easy to win.
I love that. Well, and to piggyback on what you just shared and the amount of time and effort that you spent in going around to research different places, it's like it's the expression that I use all the time. There's nothing new under the sun.
No.
It's all been done.
Yeah.
And I kind of relate what you guys did to, I've heard a couple of different stories about this. One was David Johnson, who is the executive director of this beautiful facility right behind me, which I'm sitting in the studio. Right behind me is the Fayetteville Public Library. But David Johnson related a story to me of literally going around the world to look at other libraries, to compare them to what they were trying to create here in Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, not only did the Fayetteville Public Library become, the number one library in the country at one point in time, which is an annual award that they give out, but then also the research that they put into it really allowed them to create what they now have. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen the inside of that facility, it's outstanding.
It's amazing.
Now, I say that to say another good story, which kind of ties into all this, is Sam Walton would go out to California and study a guy named Saul Price. Mm-hmm. Saul Price started a company called the Price Club. Yeah. And he is like the godfather of big box retailers.
Yeah.
And everybody has sat at the foot of Saul Price's chair.
Yeah.
Right? And so you think of the guy that started Costco, and then, of course, Sam Walton, and so many others, and they all talk about the genius of Saul Price. And so when you look at the success that maybe Walmart has had, that was born out of the leadership of that organization going around and picking and choosing the successful outcomes at other businesses and then bringing some of that back.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for anybody in business. I've done that. I just did it recently. I went and spent some time with a guy in Memphis that has a podcasting program, studio, production company that is something that I really aspire to. And I wanted to get some notes from him. I wanted to get some ideation and some encouragement as I try to go out and do something similar. And so it's like, you need that. And you guys went out in spades and got it as you decided to say, hey, we're going to embark upon this next step for Lewis Automotive Group by building this beautiful facility. But we want to make sure that we're addressing everything, not just a building.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think there was a spot along the way. We were at a store in Texas. And so like Taylor said, like the manufacturers, and I always reference this to fast food, like Wendy's needs to look like Wendy's, right? And McDonald's needs to look like McDonald's. So we knew our Ford or CDJR needed to look like X. Yeah. And there's some variability. That's why we hired our architect, because he's built over 300 stores. So we knew, like, can we change the color of the tile? And he'd be like, nope, they won't vary on that. I was like, okay, let's try. And he's like, no, they won't. I was like, okay. But we were at this store in Prosper, Texas. And Prosper is a growing area, and so they were adding new points, which is rare. But it was a CDJR store, which is Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And so some places we had acquaintances with, or like a rep had said, hey, yeah, you can go talk to Randy at the store, da-da-da. Or someone would just walk in. And so we were just like mosey around like a customer. And so we went into the store, and this general manager was out there and it was like, hey, tell me about your store. And he's like, we're still getting it open. I was like, do you mind if we tour around? We're building a new store. And we had a common person was like, hey, this person from Stellantis is kind of helps. I was like, oh, yeah, I know her. And so he's like, look around. I was like, well, tell us about your store. Like, what are the good things? And he was like, this. And it's like, okay, if you did it again, where the things would be changed? He said, I got to be honest. They came in and built specifically from their plan, and I didn't have a whole lot of input. I was like, well, what's this office? He's like, this office is useless. Like, it should be facing the other way, and it's way too big for this, and it should be cut in two offices, and I should have this, and I should have this. And it was kind of like, okay, this is going to pay off, right? We're learning, like he was millions into this project and he couldn't change anything. And so just by us being out there, taking an hour, hour and a half and learning from that, and we were in service and asked, he's like, this is on the wrong side. Like this should be over here. And he's not going to change it. Like, and there's some things like we talked about paint you can change, or move someone's desk. But there were so many things that CBRE had designed their plans and CDJR signed off on them and they picked C or B or whatever it was. And they said, build. Our architect and our construction team, we laughed about this at the construction development banquet the other day, probably hated us all along because every T and every I, we were like, whoa, pull that up. Like we want to be in the meeting with the subcontractors. And so like we had a story along the way that one of our first bids, the subcontractor list, they gave us that and we said, give us the list and we want to see if any of our customers are missing.
Yeah.
Our 78 years worth of business, we want to see. We want them in here. And then they can have the opportunity if they want to bid or not. So we got that whole list and it was like 350 people. It was like, that's a lot of people. Let's scrub our database, scrub your phone. And so we sent it back out. And so then they had 2 weeks to submit a bid. And so then we said, hey, give us a list of all the people who have not submitted a bid. And so Navajo's was like, what do you mean? But we're paying them, so they're not overly going to tell us no.
Yeah, sure.
But they were like, well, what are you going to do with this? It's like, well, we're going to call these people. It's like, you're going to call them? It's like, yeah, give us a list. And so we cut the list in 3 ways. Taylor got one, Matt got one, and I got one. And we started calling them. And so we called these businesses, like, we called ABC Concrete. It's like, hey, this is Shelby at Lewis Automotive. How are you? It's like, yes. It's like, hey, did you guys get the proposal to bid on our new Ford store?
Right.
Like, this is our store. The last one we built was in 69. Like, we're going to be in this. And this is for our kids' kids. And so we said, hey, we want you to be a part of this process and wanted you to have the opportunity. And it kept blowing their minds.
Yeah.
And so we kept calling them. And Navajo's was like, hey, we just got like 70 phone calls from all these contractors that were like, we have never had somebody. It's like, people hate doing the hard stuff.
Yeah.
But the reward is so big. So for us to be able to do that, just like you said, Sam Walton, like, he was like, no, like, I need to go learn from someone who's already done it.
Right.
And then critique it because I want to be better than him.
Exactly.
Right. So by seeing that guy in prosper, I was like, okay. So when we got in the car, I was like, what's your notes? And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Don't let cars park there. Don't put people over here.
Yeah.
And it was so easy, but it was so worthwhile.
Man, that's like going above and beyond. It's so interesting to hear that story because it's almost like the conversation's like, hey, I want to give you some money, but it's like, because partly it's because you've supported us, so we want to support you, which kind of gets into my next question because community is important. Matt talked about the importance of community, and he shared a story of how your great-grandfather helped Sam Walton secure one of his first loans.
Yeah.
And this connection, in my mind, and obviously anybody listening to this, would highlight the importance of relationships. Like, I'm all about relationships beyond anything, and community support in business success. How has Lewis Automotive Group continued to build and nurture relationships within the Northwest Arkansas community, specifically, given that, some of the examples that you guys have set long term?
I'd say the biggest thing that we do not do is just write checks out. And, and I say that we spend a whole lot of money. And if there's 52 weeks in a year, we're probably 40 plus weeks out of the year at some type of community event,
right?
A golfing event, a teacher expo, a construction developer, and we've got a whole team that does that, and Amber really helps us do all that. But the last thing we will do is just write a donation check.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have a box at the Razorback Stadium. We have seats that we've had for a long time, and they're just average Eddie in the middle of it all. Because we realized, like, we couldn't be a huge splash within the Razorbacks. And we support them wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're always they love the car wash club, right?
Sure.
I've got half the football team there. And they all get their car wash claim. We don't give them any NIL money, and they couldn't be more excited, right?
Yeah.
We're not overly asking them for appearances or to shoot commercials because they've gotten to know who we are, right? We treat them like humans, and so that has kind of become our thing. And so we're sponsoring local level stuff. Like, nothing's been more fulfilling to us than to see a third grader running around with his Pee-wee shirt on that they wear day in and day out. And their parents say, give me that for one day and let me wash it. And it says on the back, these are the words that we use, it says, powered by Lewis Automotive Group. Like, we will write those checks all day, every day until we are out of money to support those local clubs. And like I seen kids run around with a Lewis Automotive hat on. There's no better compliment. You know what I mean? Because you're just instilling them that we're here to take care of you. Like one of the fun things we do is our teacher wish list thing.
That's huge.
Like what do we do with our teacher wish list?
That's huge. So, kicking off the first year, that's the biggest pain point of any teacher that's kicking off wanting to get their classroom right.
Yeah.
Everything.
And they typically spend their own funds.
Yes.
Yeah, most of the time
because the school system, which is great, but has a limited budget of what they can spend. Yeah. So teachers just aren't allowed to spend whatever they want to there. So we've come up with this last couple of years, but they create a wish list in Amazon, send it over, and we buy it for them.
Yeah.
So we secretly, like we put it out on Facebook, but it's something that we kind of sneak in, and it's a big expense. Like it keeps growing, but it's local Northwest Arkansas teachers, and so we get to buy it. It's not like, hey, maybe they need a bunch of tissues. They put it in their wish list of what they want. Mm-hmm. It might be headphones, it might be erasers. And so that's so much fun. Like of us being one of the schools, we'll go and we'll do a teacher car wash. Mm-hmm. And so as Taylor and I said, we're the best janitors. We're also the best car washers.
Oh, yeah.
And so we'll go out there.
That's been an overriding theme of this conversation.
You understand that, right?
Yes,
we're pretty like we're doers and we think we're the best. Someone else is better, but they hadn't met us yet. And if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will, right?
That's right. Amen.
And so we'll go love on these teachers by washing their cars. And they come out and they're like, hey, I just want to take a quick second and say thank you. Like, I only had X budget and I only get paid X amount. And you guys just like it showed up at my house. So we get to go in there and secretly buy all this stuff. And it's grown $20,000, $30+ thousand. And so we get to buy all these things one teacher at a time. And it's so much fun. Just loving on the local community and helping out, whether it be a football field that we've sponsored, a little league team that we've sponsored, a dance recital that we've sponsored. We're not looking for the crazy Woom Pow, like huge marquee.
Yeah, I understand.
You're not going to see a whole lot of buildings that say the
Lewis
Taylor
Brothers,
Lewis Brothers, provided by. Like we can disperse our funds a whole lot better if we can just help all the people at the lower level.
Yeah. But also, it speaks to why you kind of gone above and beyond to try to connect with those that you've worked with as well, because it just, you are supporting people that are in this community.
Yes.
So it's that perpetual nature.
And it generally is. It's like so much fun of just like, if something goes wrong and we need help with something, we need HVAC work, be like, hey, check the list. I'm like, oh no, you got to call Chris. Like he's going to take care of us. Or like, something goes wrong and this plumbing's like, oh, got to call Brad over here.
Yeah.
And it just goes full circle because then when they need a new rig, they come find us and we're like, hey, we'll take care of it, give you a great deal. And they're like, HVACs. And they're like, man, we're 3 months out in HVAC. I got you. I'll be there. Is it okay if I come on Sunday? They're like, dude, don't come on Sunday. He's like, dude, it's you. I'll take care of you.
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's at the store. And he's like, I got it. And it's full circle, and it's what makes Fayetteville and it's what makes business so good.
Yeah.
Is it's not so corporate.
Yeah.
I mean, we laugh about that, but that carries over from our family that we're so, bonded together that we only let certain things happen. And whenever something happens that one of us likes, we share it with everybody.
Sure.
So if you use it of somebody working on a house or, cleaning or HVAC or anything else, it's just like, there's a lot of our family in Northwest Arkansas. There's only 3 of us that are currently working. Our uncle and dad are retired, but still on the board there. But it gets in a circle, and when it stays in it, we just expound.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Taylor, who's your person that's doing roofing? And he's like, oh, you got to check out this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, like I can trust Taylor, right?
Sure,
and I know that he's vetted this person.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, a new mattress. And he's like, oh, you got this guy over here, And so it's kind of how small business was built and grown.
Yeah.
And it's fun to keep that around. And
and those relationships are important. And I'm the same way. I'm like, everybody asks me, I have a recommendation for everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I referred a tenant of mine to Lewis Collision.
Okay.
For some work. And because I had actually interacted with them a long, long time ago when I first got here. But it's just when you have a familiarity with something and you know that, hey, they're going to do right by you, it makes a huge difference. And what I was blown away by is that tenant got back to me and was like, oh my God, they were amazing. And it was just like, thank you. She was just thanking me. She's a single mom and she she was just really happy with how she was treated. And, sometimes you don't always get that treatment with businesses.
Yeah, and it's a focal point. It's kind of like Cheers. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
Right.
We don't know your name yet. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, what is this place? I've hardly made it in the door, and they've coffee watered me, car washed me.
They've hooked me up.
Yeah, they've hooked me up. And you're just like, I kind of like this place,
Absolutely.
right? And we say all the time, cheapest is the cheapest for a reason.
Yeah.
And we're not saying you got to pay double, triple, or even like a whole lot more. It might not even be more. A lot of our stuff is on the market or below the market, but I promise you're getting your money's worth.
I love that. Well, Shelby and Taylor, you guys have really you've kind of taken Matt's conversation and elevated it, if that is such a thing. So I really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast and talking about family business, right? Because it does matter. And what you guys at Lewis Automotive Group are doing is special. And I think it's emblematic of the types of industries and businesses that we see succeeding here in Northwest Arkansas. You've got multi-generations of experience in this, but there are other companies that are coming here to relocate, to do business. And I think they should look to what you guys have been able to do as an example of what's possible.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think you're right.
Yeah. And
I don't think it goes without saying, if you liked hearing, maybe you did, maybe didn't, what we have to say, I got to plug this. We did just start our own podcast.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis brothers.
Yeah. So it's been a fun thing that we've dreamed of or talked about for about 4 years. When COVID happened, we kind of started that because there's so many good stories. We're all about stories, right?
Sure.
And so we've started that. We're 10 episodes deep. So wherever you get your podcast, Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis brothers.
We'll link to that in the show notes so people can check that out.
It's a fun under the hood. It's fun for us because we are go.
Yeah.
Right? From the plumbers and the car washers and then all the other stuff.
Sure.
It's fun for us to slow down and then relate to it's business struggles. It's culture. It's how we got where we are.
Yeah.
And so that's something that releases every week, but it's been fun.
I can only imagine that you have just scratched the surface in terms of telling the stories that have happened over the years.
Man, because we get to do life together, like our family and the three brothers. We generally, like Taylor said, we all have our own personalities, but generally those personalities collide at some level.
Yeah.
And so if it becomes a family vacation or a fun thing that we get to do at our elevated level, because that's the only way we know how, right?
Sure.
And so then the stories are just whether it be at the store that trickled over to that or just completely non-relevant, but we have fun, right?
Yeah,
we have fun.
I love that. So perfect. How can people find you guys? Connect on LinkedIn, email? What's the best way? If somebody listening to this and was really inspired by what you had to share, of course, if they need a car, we're going to put a link to the website so they can come visit you guys. I would encourage people to come out there. They're right off of I-49. Definitely check out and visit their new beautiful facility there. And they're still getting firmly entrenched in that area there. But how would you like people to reach out to you guys?
Yeah, I would say social networks are probably the best, and we can send you our connection profile to be able to connect at any level, but whether it be on Facebook or Instagram, you can find us just by our names, Shelby or Taylor Lewis.
Perfect.
And then reach out, but also through any of our business channels. But we love hearing stories like, hey, Lewis Automotive has helped because of this. So we love hearing the stories. Don't assume that we know that because we don't always.
Right.
Or if you're in an issue like, hey, can you help? Then sure, we're happy to help with that. But also along the way, we just love growing our network of people. So reach out or stop by and see us for a free car wash or a complimentary coffee.
Come down there and get a car wash.
Come on.
Yeah,
I'm going to do that. That's for sure. So, well, listen, Shelby Lewis, Taylor Lewis, thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. We really appreciate you guys, the work that you're doing in this community and the foundation that your family has built over the generations. And so we look forward to the next generation.
Yeah.
To those little kids that I saw at the grand opening. And, Lord knows they'll be ready one day to come in and take over what you guys have been doing and take it to a whole nother level.
They're getting there. We're running through car boot camp right now.
There you go. You got to love it. Well, good. Well, thank you, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. To learn more about us, you can visit our website at iamnorthwestarkansas.com. Remember, our episode comes out every Monday, rain or shine. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you back here for another illuminating and insightful episode like this one that you heard today next week. We'll see you soon. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.